We've got a lot of first-year head coaches across the country. Let's grade out how we think these guys did. Let's start with Deion. Colorado started on fire in the first 3 weeks. I mean, I was ready to say they were going to win 9 games after the first 3 weeks when they started 3-0. And buddy, they did not. They went 4-8. I remember that TCU game. It seems like eons ago. But Deion, what do you say? The preseason win total over under was 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
They hit the over at 4-8. What's your grade for Deion in year one?
Honestly, Sam, I want to be generous, and I want to go like B+ here.
Wow. Okay.
Let me justify it.
Okay.
Well, it's hard to justify, but let me try to justify it. Here's why. Because we're talking about them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The interest level on Colorado was all-time low in 2022. He made them better. Not as good as people hoped, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think everyone got way over their skis because it was very exciting and new, and it clearly, in September, it really did, transcend sports a little bit. And we got over our skis because TC was ranked, and the Frogs really made this thing look so much bigger and better than it actually was. Every concern that everyone raised in the spring about Colorado when they were purging the roster came true. Every single one of them. Like, wasn't enough legit Power 5 talent coming in. Not good enough up front. Bad O-line. Can't run the ball. Culture matters. All those things. There was some truth to them, right? I think that I trust that what they thought they had in the spring was worse than what they had in the fall, right? I get that. I get that they felt like, hey, we needed to do this. But there was obviously some downsides to the extreme overhaul. Shedeur was so good. He was so much better than I anticipated. And I think the staff stuff is like obviously a little bit alarming. The fact that it's getting blown up at the end of the year one is very interesting. You kind of wonder how much of that is because they brought together some of the wrong coaches, or how much of that is good coaches maybe trying to get out after going through this for a year. And yet all of that is to say, Sam, I still think you're running a business, and business is booming if you're Colorado. I mean, if you've got freaking Carl Jarrell as your head coach right now, like, it might be the Pac-3, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Colorado is more valuable and desirable and interesting to people, infinitely way more interesting to people than it was, a year ago. And so I think that's kind of why I want to give them a high grade, because there's lots of football reasons why you'd say, oof, that was a very year one in a bunch of ways. Mm-hmm. But if you're judging the higher, I mean, it's a box office success.
Yeah, that it is. I will give them a C+ because I think it's.
You're not a believer then.
You don't believe.
I'm not. I'm not saying I'm not a believer. They're better, but man, they really took it on the chin down the stretch.
Yes, they did.
And
the ratings were not as good for those games too. I should note that.
I will tell you this: I would be in the B territory until the Sean Lewis thing happened. The whole demoting Sean Lewis and taking play calling duties away and all that stuff. I didn't like how that went down.
Yep.
So it calls into question to me management and how Deion managed this program long term. So that's why I'm not giving a B just yet. I think if we had the same results, maybe you get another win and you don't have that issue, I think I'm maybe giving you a B-. But I'm getting C+ just because it's just, they got ramrodded by Oregon. Mm-hmm. They got hammered by Washington State. Matt Rhule, Nebraska. This was another one we talked a lot about in the preseason.
I want you to go first on this one. Give me your perception from a distance here.
I come from a little bit of a different angle because I kind of know what a first year Matt Rhule program looks like.
Yep.
And guess what? A first year Matt Rhule program is usually struggles. It's usually not great. And so none of what happened really shocked me. Over under was 6.5. They go 5-7. They just miss a bowl game. They were really close. They go through the quarterback issues, which we talked about ad nauseum earlier in the show. I'm gonna say I'm kind of in the same realm with him. With Deion. I'm kind of on that C plus B minus range, but I'm almost more willing to forgive.
So if you gave Deion a 79.4, so what are you giving Matt Rhule?
I guess it was 79.8. So I guess we'll round that up to an 80. I'll give him a B minus. I do think the foundation there is good for the future. I believe in the long-term vision. And you look at, they lost the last 4 games, they lost all by 1 score less. And they were that close to going bowl. And I think if just one of those games turns, you go into a bowl and the outlook and I think the feeling is a lot different and a lot better.
Totally.
But there were certainly some moments this year, and I know you could speak to this. There were certainly some moments this year where it's like, are we just cursed? Is it just going to continue to be like this for Nebraska forever? And I think year 2 in the Rhule era is going to be a lot better. But what do you think?
I think I wrote down B, and it maybe, yeah, you could say it's closer to B minus than B plus, but I would say B. It's one of the worst seasons I've ever seen in terms of injuries. Running backs got wiped out, offensive line, wide receiver. Obviously they didn't get it right with Jeff Sims, and really struggled at quarterback. But the odd thing is, especially you go back and break down that schedule. So Matt Rhule made one of the best hires of the whole offseason in Tony White, his defensive coordinator that he brought in from Syracuse, and he who's going to be able to hold on to after USC made a run at him. Tony White did such a good job of taking what they had and building a top 25 caliber defense that Nebraska could have won 8 or 9 games this year. I mean, they really could have. That's not crazy to say, and they are not the they certainly are not a top 5 most talented team in the Big Ten by any means, right? It was a team of pretty hardworking dudes that really had to grind to score points and win games. And so I understand there's the long-term trauma here that comes with that of losing all these close games over and over and over again that everyone gets very sick of, understandably so. But I'm with you that I think it's pointed in a solid direction. They've got a lot of work to do in terms of the roster, recruiting, portal. And I think people here are generally, they've been hurt enough that they are sort of generally positive, but not as much Kool-Aid drinking as the Frost era, just because how much everyone got burned by that. So it's it's very
scar tissue left.
There's just a lot of cautiously optimistic kind of vibes here going into this offseason.
Let's go on a roll and let's just hand out some A's, guys who we thought got A's this year. I'll start with ACC Louisville, Jeff Brom. I think this one's obvious. Jeff Brom used to play there. Obviously, big, well-received hire when he got there. They go 10-3, first ACC championship game in program history. So I think he gets an A. Who are some of the other guys that you really liked in the A group of first-year head coaches?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm feeling generous today, so I'm passing out some A pluses here to Jeff Brom. I'm passing one out to Jamie Chadwell, who obviously inherited a pretty good team, but to go 13-0 and enter a New Year's Six bowl is an incredible accomplishment for that program. I'm going to give an A to Barry Odom. I thought that it is. You would think, oh, it's Vegas. That's people would want to go there. That's cool. UNLV was just a dumpster of a program, and he got that thing flipped to 9-4 in year 1 is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what they've done there. And I would also like to give out a. Can we throw out an A or an A plus to David Braun at Northwestern?
100%.
Going 7-5 with that situation and how late that situation played out in the summer, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it got him the job. Obviously, got him the job full time. So that definitely deserving of that.
The preseason total there was 3, and that was reasonable.
Yeah,
that was reasonable. And he won 7, and he won Big Ten Coach of the Year. Shout out to David Braun for again holding that thing together and bringing out their best. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Any more you want to pass out?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give an A to GJ Kinney at Texas State.
Okay.
First bowl in program history. They were 4.5 on the over/under preseason. They went 7-5, and most wins
Portal.
as an FBS program. Yeah, portal. They went in portal heavy. 53. Well, they about 37 portal, and they had about 16 high school signees. So they went heavy on flipping the roster and did a good job with it. And they had some really good finds. CJ Finley, obviously, the former Auburn LSU guy, was a big one. But they got guys like Ismail Mahdi from Houston Christian. They got Joey Hobart from Utah Tech. I mean, they were finding guys that were on nobody's radar and turned out to be really good players. So for them to get that first bowl in program history was really big. So I'll give him an A.
That's the thing that I want to be able to do in the video game when it comes back is you take over like a place like Texas State, and can you just bring in like 40 transfers and see what
the portal in the new college football game is going to be interesting. Who do you have in your B group? There's a lot of different other coaches in this first year to choose from. Who do you have in your B group?
I'd give a B to Alex Golish at USF for getting them bowl eligible. I thought that he did a nice job there coming in from Tennessee. That's a program that hasn't been close to competitive in that league, and I thought he did a good job. Hugh Freeze, I'll give him a B. I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel strongly about it. Luke Fickell, I have a hard time with. Wisconsin won their last two, but Wisconsin was pretty rough this year.
Yeah, it wasn't as quick as I thought. I hesitate to give Hugh Freeze a B just because they got pounded by New Mexico State. Like that one's going to be.
I'm giving Jerry Kill a retroactive A+. By the way, we didn't do this last year, but
that was year 2. Jerry Kill killed it over there in Conference USA. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'd give Fickell a B, but Hugh Freeze, I think I'd give a C+ for Freeze.
Okay.
The recruiting is really good, though.
Recruiting's rolling.
They're recruiting really well, and so that's promising for the future. Brent Key, I think I'd give Brent Key, Georgia Tech. I think they had a pretty good year. They were 4 on the preseason over/under. He goes 6-6 and get a bowl game. So I'll give him 1. What do we think about Kenny Dillingham? And they had the preseason bowl ban, Arizona State. 4.5. They didn't hit the over/under. How are you feeling about Kenny Dillingham at ASU?
Feeling bullish. I think what a weird situation to walk into there in terms of the lingering NCAA penalties that haven't hit yet, and obviously they just had Ray Anderson is out now as AD as well, and that whole decision to not go bowling right before the season started. Obviously very unpopular. Kenny, the head coach felt very strongly that was a pretty messed up thing to do. And it's tough when you kind of take away that carrot before the season kicks off. And I thought that they were a pretty thin team. Obviously they tried to also go extremely heavy on the portal to try to flip that roster going into year one. Pretty thin. They had some good hits in the portal. But man, like a team that I think they were just down to like 7 offensive line by the end of that year. 3-9. I know the record doesn't look great. Is under the preseason total. I generally like where it's going, but probably about as rough as you could expect given some of the odd circumstances I think on that job this year.
Yeah, I think so, and I'll agree with you. I'm bullish on them long term. I think I like
still
the
fine
put together.
C+, B-, whatever you want to do there. I think I think he's got a good staff there, and it's kind of like we saw with Arizona this year. I think that thing will turn relatively quickly if they can have some stability.
Needs improvement. There's a lot of guys that can fall under this list. Scott Satterfield, Cincinnati. They finished last in the Big 12. I thought all the Big 12 new Big 12 newcomers were going to have trouble, but I didn't think Cincinnati was going to be quite as bad as they were. I think they had lost like 6-7 in a row at one point. So,
I don't have the standings in front of me, and Baylor was obviously very bad too. But Cincinnati felt like the worst team in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, and Baylor actually did beat them. Yeah, they were. I mean, they ended up finishing last. They only had one Big 12 win, which was the one at Houston that they had.
But there weren't many games where you're like, oh man, they're close. Like, yeah, it's going to be a process there.
Yeah, it's going to take some time for sure. So yeah, they finished 3-9, 1-8 overall. I will tell you, I was really surprised that Tom Herman at Florida Atlantic FAU, they did not, with Casey Thompson and all that. I thought that was going to be a lot better than it was. So
there you go. Lost Casey Thompson to injury. Yeah, tough break there.
Yeah, needs improvement there.
Ryan Walters went 4-8. Troy Taylor at Stanford had some moments this year. That's you go look at how many Stanford players transferred and are like, starting at Michigan now and stuff like that, or starting at starting at Power 5 schools right now. They got hit really hard at this time a year ago by the portal, and so it's going to take some time to build that roster back up. But I think Stanford will be okay long term. But 3-9, certainly Stanford's got a lot of improve in a lot of ways. Trent Dilfer 4-8. Zach Arnett needs a little room for improvement here. Got fired after year one at Mississippi State. Just strange all around there. I think he'll land on his feet as a DC, but yeah, that was we can't leave
tough circumstances. Tough circumstance to take that job, and I was at that game, his last game actually.
Yeah.
They lost to A&M. They got hammered, and I was stunned. I had not seen Mississippi State get beat like that in quite some time. So. Yeah, definitely. They definitely are going to have a fresh start there with Jeff Lebby. Be interesting to see. I will say, speaking of, they picked up Blake Shapen in the portal this weekend. I'm really intrigued by the Blake Shapen and the Jeff Lebby offense. I think that could be a lot
of moxie match there. Yeah, could be a good guy that to help them. They're going to be playing underdog role a lot next year, but that could be fun to watch.